Hey guys, welcome to Florida Crusader. My name is Greg, and each week we bring you interesting insights into the history of philosophy, the application of philosophy, theology, other approaches, all looking at kind of how we construct an ethos in our own lives based on wisdom from the past. So each week we'll be discussing different topics. This video is part of a series on Plato's four classical virtues. So in the text, Plato the Republic, Plato identifies four classical virtues which, when those virtues are applied, they construct what he calls the good. So how we define what is good, why something is good, is based upon the meeting of these four criteria of classical virtues. And those virtues are wisdom, self-control or temperance, justice, and courage. So today we're going to look at the first of the four classical virtues, which Plato identifies as the Greek word Sophia, or wisdom. So what is wisdom? What makes something wise? What makes someone wise? Plato identifies wisdom with what he calls the forms. So if you're unfamiliar with Plato, if you're unfamiliar with Plato's philosophy is derived largely from the idea of being, absolute being, and then becoming. So to talk about being, we have to know what becoming is. So becoming is the transient world around us, how things are constantly in flux. Things are constantly expanding, things are constantly contracting. The world is in movement, the world is in motion. When I go out and I buy a fancy new desk, it has attributes of it which are similar to prior desks I might have owned or prior desks I might have sat at and used. So the way that I know that this desk is the same category of thing as other desks that I've had in the past, other desks that I've used, is because there's an idea out there of what a table, what a desk is. So the being of the desk is the individual kind of appearance of a desk. And as I sit at my desk, it looks very stagnant and stable to me. It looks like something that is just there. But if I look down into the molecules of the desk, there's a whole plethora of movement and energy and atomic interchange that's making the physical thing possible. If I have the desk for 15 years, even if I clean it, dust it, take care of it, it will experience some form of decay. It will not remain the exact same desk indefinitely. So it is becoming, it's in a transient state. So Plato noticed this. Many other philosophers around the world have grappled with this kind of impermanence, or this ideas that of something being a thing, but the actual thing is something that's always changing. So what Plato says is, he says, I call this a desk because it meets criteria of the idea of a desk. The idea of a desk, the reason if I see a desk that looks totally different than this, but it's also a desk, I recognize that it's a desk, is because there's an ideal idea or form of what a desk is that language kind of points to. The language does its best job to guide us toward this thing, this concept. So Plato says the forms or being is what constitutes law and rules in the natural world. As we're born, we are subject to laws of life. Where did those come from? The forms. They come from a pure being, a pure intellectual concept. So, wisdom, as defined by Plato, is the awareness of the forms. It's the awareness of the deeper level of life which regulates life, which makes life happen as it does, to put it simply. So, to Plato, wisdom, Sophia, comes from this awareness, from this study of the forms themselves. There's a very famous painting by Michelangelo in Rome. And I'll put a link to this painting if you've never seen it. It's very beautiful. And it's a conversation between two philosophers that are depicted in the painting, Plato and Aristotle. And they're in a conversation. It's a painting, so we can't hear the conversation, but we can see their hand gestures in the painting. Plato is pointing up. Aristotle is pointing forward. He's pointing out. So what does this mean? So Aristotle, who is also a student of Socrates with Plato, Aristotle says, if I want to know the forms, I must study the becoming. I must study the manifest. I must study becoming to become aware of being, to understand being. So I study my own life, I study how things work, I study the world around me, I study my relationships, and I deduce the truth or falsity of claims about life based on my experience. I have open eyes. Plato points up. So Plato is not against having open eyes, but his eyes are directed in a different subject matter, a different orientation. Plato says that if I study the metaphysical forms of life, if I study the first principle, then all of the emanations of that principle are way less confusing to me. So wisdom is the awareness of law. Wisdom is the awareness of truth. Wisdom is knowing what is good based on an objective essence of goodness. There's a conversation in the Republic, and if you haven't watched our intro video, I'll link it at the end of this video, but Plato's writings, for the most part, are written almost like a play, the script for a play. So his play star, Socrates, his teacher. His teacher, Socrates, is speaking to other philosophers, and they are deducing through the Socratic method, through putting out a statement, having others give counters or questioning of that statement, and refining the statement so that it is inclusive of anything that maybe was neglected that those oppositional voices put out. So Socrates says that philosophy is not accessible to the common person, the common man. And the reason for this is because the mass in society, the masses, are more interested in the approval of others who are also not philosophically oriented. So oftentimes in a society, those who are philosophically inclined, those who are deep thinkers, are the most readily dejected from the society, rejected, turned away. So Plato's one of the key elements in the Republic is the idea of the philosopher king, of one who is oriented toward philosophy, one who is oriented toward wisdom in their own life, being the ideal leader for others. Part of the reason for this necessity is this lack of orientation toward philosophy that is typical of people that are immersed in media, immersed in society, immersed in the rat race. These people, Plato points out through Socrates' voice in the Republic, he points out that these people are less inclined toward philosophy, therefore they need a philosophically inclined ruler or organization or guidelines to help them be wise, to help them access wisdom. When I have awareness of the forms, when I have an awareness of the rules of life and the construct of life, I'm then able to practice temperance, to practice self-control. I'm then able to exact justice because I know the true definition of good, of rightness, of correctness. I'm also able to be courageous because I have an awareness of an objective truth that then empowers my actions. It makes me unafraid of things that are counter to the truth. The rejection, the counterance of the truth is something that comes easy to one who is able to perceive the rules and the forms. I would be remiss if I did not include Origin of Alexandria's On First Principles, which is really excellent book, Platonic philosophy applied by an early church father in a Christian context, saying that if we want to know the first principle, if we want to know the source of being, it's identifiable in God, in a creative source. So using Origin as an example, we see that Platonic philosophy is something that is adaptable the world over, because Plato is concerned not so much with learning all the things that there are to know about our day-to-day life, in so much as he is the timeless truths and principles which allow us to construct a life around wisdom, around the pursuit of truth. Thank you so much for joining. Do like and subscribe to the channel. There'll be more content concerning Plato and other thinkers, philosophers, important people throughout history as we go along. I definitely encourage you to leave comments on the videos, and particularly this one. How is the pursuit of wisdom something that does, will help you to shape your life? Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you in the next video.